Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Once again, I'm up here on my swale to do some maintenance work. What to chop and what to leave is always the question. Today I just want to focus on one small area of my swale where I've got 2 olive trees and I've also got 2 hazelnut trees. I do have quite large support trees that I need to thin out or take off the top, and we're just going to have a bit of a closer look and decide together what I need to do. Whenever I come up to my swales to do my chop and drop work, I bring my bucket, and in there I have my chop and drop equipment. I have my long-handled loppers, a little saw for larger branches, secateurs for smaller stuff, and of course the sickle for any of the grasses that I want to take down. And I find it handy just to put it in a bucket and carry that with me. Just here you can see this olive tree is kind of being pushed out. This tree is getting a bit too large right next to it, so I think I want to take out some of this just to give this tree a bit more space, and I might pull this branch out here and see if I can train the tree just to sort of straighten up a little bit. This is over the other side of that tree. You can see here, now I've got west down there. This tree here is actually blocking a lot of the west sun. I have shown this tree before and it's got very few flowers on it, if any. And I think that's because it's not getting that hot afternoon sun that olive trees, especially in my climate, could really benefit from. So that's the olive tree through there. So we need to take out sort of quite a bit here. And this is the second olive tree here, which again is being pushed out by that support tree that's next to it. I really need to thin that tree out so that this can grow up a little bit straighter. Now this one is one of my hazelnut trees, and I've got a Tagasasti that's fairly close to it, which has provided support from the wind and frost as this tree was small, but as you can see it's getting quite large now and it actually needs a little bit more space. So I'm going to take out a bit more of that Tagasasti just to give this a bit more room. On the other side of this hazelnut tree I do have another Tagasasti which I have in the previous chop and drop pruned back quite well. I might just take out a few more of these little branches. Now this hazelnut tree needs a lot more room. At the moment they're big enough that they can withstand the frost, withstand the wind. We've got the south over there and the west winds coming through here. These trees will buffer some of those winds still, but the frost doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if we kind of take that out quite a bit on each side to give the hazelnuts a bit of room. But over this side, these acacias are really crowding this tree quite a bit. So we have to think about pruning both of these acacias so it benefits the hazelnut and also benefits the 2 olive trees. So we're just going to have a bit of a think about the best way to go about that. Viewed from this spot here, you can see that that acacia is actually getting really quite tall. So the decision is, do I just thin the branches to give some more light to my olive tree and give space on this side for this olive? And I'll also need to thin for the hazelnut tree. Now acacias don't cop as well, so I can't just sort of cut it off and let it regrow. Do I take out the top and just thin a few of the branches, or do I just thin the branches? That's the sort of thing I've got to think about, because really this tree is just here to provide mulch, provide protection for these trees from winds and frost, and that's about it. So another decision would be whether we take the whole tree out altogether. Now if we took the whole tree out, that's a lot of chop and drop material that could help build the soil. But is that being a bit too drastic? You can just quickly plant another one of these trees and it will grow up quite quickly in a couple of years. For today, I think we're just going to take out some of these branches which will thin this tree out, give the light to the second olive tree, give the space that this tree needs just so that it's got a bit more of an upright growth. And also just be mindful of the branches we take out so that it's got less impact on our hazelnut tree. As for the height of it, I think we'll leave taking that out till maybe the next chop and drop, or in autumn when we've moved through the heat of summer and we don't need the shading effect as much. So down the track, when I do take most of this tree out, I will probably add in a few other small acacias to grow quickly here, because you basically want to keep growing your own mulch, because as you can see, we've got a lot of buttercup growing. There's still some grasses in here, so there's still a lot of work to do with building the organic woody material on the soil. Now, as for this tree back here, which is actually a really beautiful acacia, it does have a broken branch, so I'll be taking that out, but I will be just thinning some of these branches sort of at the lower level, a bit like I'm going to do with the acacia next to it. It does still provide a function as a windbreak. And as I said before, frost protection in this area, because these trees are quite large now, isn't as needed. I'd still like this in place because I might be able to then plant some understory plants which might benefit from a bit of frost protection. So that's why it's a good idea to have a think about what you're doing, not just take out some of these big trees, but they might be able to protect some other plantings down the track. So enough talking about it, I'm going to get started just with these smaller tagasastes next to this hazelnut tree. When I'm doing the chop and drop, I also just like to get around the base of the tree and just give it a bit of a clearance and drop all this to the ground as well. Just having a closer look around the base of the tree, you can see there's actually, the soil is quite light and fluffy. Lots of worm activity, I'd suggest, and the buttercups really aren't that thick through here, but they are shading the soil and helping to retain that moisture. Now this is a dock plant that is going to seed, but those seeds aren't viable yet, so I don't mind putting that all down on the ground. You can see over this side of the tree, I've just cleared out this buttercup, but there's the remains of the last chop and drop I did that's slowly breaking down. You can see there, that's an older bit of timber that we've had on the ground for a while, and the fungi are starting to go to work decomposing that. Just make sure we cover up that and maintain the moisture. Okay, so we've got that side of the tree looked after. Now we'll have a look at this tagasasti. It doesn't look like there's too much that we'll have to remove there. Just a couple of these small branches that I'll take out. And once again, all those little prunings can just get added around the base of this tree. And that one is done. At some stage, I might just get my little chainsaw out and take this thick branch out, because we don't really need that there anymore. It looks like plenty of space for the moment on this side. Now we just need to decide what we're going to do with this side of the tagasasti tree next to the other hazelnut I've got here. It's sort of growing right out into it, so we need to take off quite a bit on this side. Now the tagasasti should reshoot again. We're going into warm weather, so it's the growing season for them. So I'm going to take out kind of quite a slice of the tagasasti here. Now you can see here, this branch really doesn't have the space it would like. So I might even take off this branch of the tagasasti, which will remove all that growth and give that a lot more room. So this is the branch we were looking at. You can tell it's kind of been pushed up by the tagasasti, so that should now be able to sort of drop and spread out a lot more. Now just to clear around the base of the tree, then I can get all that Tagersastia right down here as well. And now we can just put the Tagersastia around the base of this tree. If it's a larger branch like this one is, I'll just chop it up a little bit first. So we've got plenty of space on this side now, and there'll be more westerly light getting to this tree as well. And all the trimmings have been added to the base. On this side of the hazelnut tree, we've got a few branches on this acacia to take out. The wind has blown down some, so we can remove that branch that's just hanging there and get that onto the soil, and just sort of trim a little bit through this side here. So there's a bit more space through there now, but plenty of tree left on this side to protect from wind. And we just need to spread all these prunings around under the hazelnut tree. So now we move on to this tree. Just going to thin it through the middle here to give this space and the other olive tree some light, and a little bit more space on this side for the hazelnut tree. I won't take out all the branches, but just sort of every second one or so, up to here. This branch here is one that sort of comes over the top of the olive tree. So I'm going to start with taking that one out, because that will have the biggest positive impact on my olive tree. So taking that branch out has given this olive tree some more space. I might just have to tie that up to the acacia to hold it up a little bit straighter so that it will go straight up. And then I'll worry about more of these tree branches after that. I've just spotted this gorgeous little nest in the tree. No eggs in it. I don't know if it's already been finished or they're just letting me do my thing at the moment, but I'll certainly be leaving this branch here and maybe some protective branches over the top. These are the sort of things you've got to decide on the go, really, just to help all little creatures. Now, given that little nest there, I'm kind of a bit hesitant to take out too much of this just above. I think I will take out that little branch over there to give the hazelnut space, and it will leave a bit of cover should this bird need to use this nest. So that's all I've done around this hazelnut. A bit hard to pick out with all the green, but it's certainly got more space and more light now, while still being protected a little bit from damaging winds. Now the Tagersastia, while it's a nitrogen fixer, it's really just there to provide the mulch at this point, and it's not until we take it right out and kill it that it will release the nitrogen to the soil. But all of that tree trimmings there with the green leaves, that does provide nitrogen directly on top of the soil that the soil organisms can utilise. Once again, just a quick trimming around the base of this olive tree, and I'll add in the acacia trimmings around it. So now on to our final productive tree, and this is the second olive. It's sort of going a bit crooked. It's been pushed out by this one over time, I think, because I have trimmed this a little bit before. But what we could do, like the other olive tree, is just perhaps tie it to the acacia and see if I can train it so it's got a more upright growth to it. I might be able to just sort of tie it at the base there, might be best. But before we can do that, we've got to decide what we need to do with these two trees on this side of them. So this is quite thick, and I might just take out, there's a couple of branches through here which will give adequate space to this tree, but still not thin it too much that it's going to impact the hazelnut tree. And then we can get a better look at the other acacia and see what additional branches we need to take out, keeping in mind that little nest. I'll just start with this tree and take out these branches on this side. It's better to take out more branches later if you feel you need more out than to take too much at the moment. So I've given this lots of space, and we should be able to tie the tree up to the other tree here. If I need to, I can take out that other branch here, but that's the south, and this tree here does protect the olive tree from the brunt of the southwest winds. Now, as for this tree here, I'm not 100% sure on what I should be doing. I know down the track I will be taking the whole thing out, but it might be good for shading and introducing some smaller shrubs. So I'm going to keep that in mind, but I'll just alternate which branches I take out here and see the impact on a sunny day on my olive tree and make sure that it's just getting enough light. Maybe. Now there's actually some benefit for the olive tree on the other side of this tree from the easterly winds, which is why I don't want to take out all the branches, because there is some protection for that other plant. Not the best way to take down a branch, but there we go. Now that has opened up a little bit more light from the west, but I suspect I'm going to have to get a ladder down the track and get up quite a bit higher, or maybe even just take out that top. I'm really undecided at this point, but I'm going to come back on a nice sunny afternoon and just assess how much extra light's getting through to this tree. Now to see if we can clear some space around this tree. Now that these trees are larger, chop and drop really lives up to its name. You just have to really chop and drop, and that should all dry out, break down and drop to the soil surface and really benefit that soil. Well, there's a few more trees in my food forest looked after. As these trees get bigger, less and less I'll have to come out here and deal with them. But they still need training, they still need the soil improved, and we've still got to manage the support trees to benefit these productive trees. So I've been out 2 or 3 times to each of these trees in the last year, and it doesn't really take very long. The bigger they get, the more you can just leave huge big branches on the ground around their base, and that'll be just fine. It's just when they're a little bit smaller you need to give them a bit more attention. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.